You turned 30, or you're about to, and something shifted. Not financially necessarily, emotionally. There's this quiet awareness that hits somewhere between your 29th birthday and your 31st, that the runway isn't infinite, that the things you were going to figure out later, retirement, investing, real savings, a plan, later is now. And the internet is no help because every financial milestone article says the same thing. By 30, you should have 1 year's salary saved. And you look at your bank account and think, cool, I'm already behind. Here's what I want to reframe about your 30s because it changes everything. Your 30s aren't the decade where you're supposed to have already built wealth. Your 30s are the decade where the building actually happens. It's the decade with the highest earning growth, the most consequential financial decisions, and the biggest compounding advantage you'll ever have. And the difference between someone who exits their 30s on track and someone who exits them still figuring it out usually comes down to 4 specific milestones. Hit at roughly the right time, in roughly the right order, not vague goals, specific numbers at specific ages. And once you see the map, the whole decade stops feeling overwhelming and starts feeling strategic. My name is Max, and I want to help you learn how to make your money work more for you in your life. This channel is about understanding the actual progression of building wealth. Not the highlight reel, but the real age-by-age experience of getting from here to there. If you're in your 30s and you want a map, subscribe, because that's what we build here. So here's what the conventional advice tells you. Save 15% of your income, max out your 401k, build an emergency fund, and all of that is fine. It's technically correct, but it's also completely generic. It doesn't tell you what to prioritize when. It doesn't account for the fact that your financial life at 30 looks nothing like your financial life at 38. It treats the entire decade as one uniform phase, when in reality, your 30s have distinct stages with different priorities, different challenges, and different opportunities. The reason most people feel behind in their 30s isn't that they're doing the wrong things. It's that they're doing the right things in the wrong order, or trying to do everything at once and making real progress on nothing. The milestone map I'm about to share isn't about doing more, it's about doing the right thing at the right time. Think of your 30s like building a house. You don't install the roof and the plumbing and the windows all simultaneously. You pour the foundation first. Then you frame the walls, then the roof, then the interior. Each phase depends on the one before it, and trying to skip ahead doesn't save time. It creates structural problems you'll spend years repairing. The 4 milestones I'm going to walk through are the foundation, the frame, the roof, and the interior of your financial house. Miss the foundation and nothing else holds. Get them in order, and the structure is solid for decades. But here's where it gets really interesting. Let me walk through each milestone. Milestone 1, by age 30 to 31, fully funded emergency fund and zero high interest debt. This is the foundation, and I know, if you're 32 and you don't have this yet, you might feel a pang of anxiety. Don't. These are targets, not deadlines. Hitting them at 33 instead of 31 doesn't ruin anything. The order matters more than the timing. Your emergency fund should be 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses in a high-yield savings account. Not invested, not in crypto. Cash that you can access in 24 hours. For most people in their early 30s, this means $8,000 to $15,000 depending on your cost of living. And zero high interest debt means anything above 7 to 8% interest. Credit cards, personal loans, some car loans. Needs to be eliminated. You can't build wealth while paying 22% interest. The math doesn't work. Every dollar that goes to high interest debt is a dollar that can't compound in your favor, and the interest rate you're paying almost certainly exceeds the returns you'd earn by investing. Now, the psychology of why this milestone has to come first. There's a concept called financial bandwidth, your brain's capacity to make good financial decisions. When you have high interest debt and no emergency fund, your financial bandwidth is almost entirely consumed by anxiety and damage control. You can't think strategically because you're too busy thinking defensively. Clearing the debt and building the buffer isn't just a financial move. It's a cognitive one. It frees up the mental bandwidth you'll need for everything that comes after. The math on this is straightforward but important. If you have $6,000 in credit card debt at 22% interest and you're making minimum payments, you'll pay approximately $4,800 in interest over the repayment period. That $4,800 invested at 8% over the remaining 28 years of your 30s and beyond would be worth about $35,000. High interest debt isn't just expensive today, it's catastrophically expensive in compounded future wealth. Here's a framework that makes Milestone 1 feel achievable. Attack the debt first, aggressively with every spare dollar, while maintaining a mini emergency fund of $1,000. Once the debt is gone, redirect every dollar that was going to debt payments into the emergency fund. If you were paying $400 a month toward debt, your emergency fund fills to $6,000 in about 15 months. The whole milestone, debt elimination, plus full emergency fund, is typically achievable in 12 to 24 months with focused effort, and the psychological reward is immediate. The day you make your last debt payment and your emergency fund hits its target, a weight lifts that you didn't even realize you were carrying. People describe it as financial breathing room, like inhaling fully for the first time in years. That breathing room isn't just a feeling, it's the cognitive bandwidth you'll need for Milestone 2. Milestone 2, by age 33 to 34, $50,000 invested. This is the frame of the house, the structural skeleton that everything else attaches to. I know you may be thinking, $50,000 by 33? I'm nowhere near that. And honestly, that's more common than you'd think. The median retirement savings for Americans aged 30 to 34 is roughly $21,000. So $50,000 by 33 puts you well ahead of the curve. But here's why this specific number matters. $50,000 is approximately where your investments start generating returns that are equivalent to a noticeable portion of your contributions. At 8%, $50,000 generates about $4,000 per year in returns. That's $333 a month that showed up without you working for it. You start to feel the compounding, and that feeling is incredibly motivating. If you clear your debt and build your emergency fund by 31, and then invest $700 a month starting at 31, you hit $50,000 in invested assets by about age 33 to 34. That's $700 a month for roughly 30 to 36 months. Aggressive, but achievable, especially since your early 30s are typically when your income starts climbing. The identity shift at this milestone is significant. You've been investing for 3 years consistently, you've survived at least one market dip, you've resisted the urge to time the market or switch to individual stocks. You've become, by definition, a long-term investor. That identity doesn't break, it only strengthens from here. But here's where the decade starts to get really powerful. Milestone 3. By age 35 to 36, $100,000 net worth. This is the roof. And it's the milestone that Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner, called the hardest. Getting to $100,000 feels like it takes forever. Getting from $100,000 to $200,000 feels like it happens overnight. Now, net worth is different from invested assets. Net worth includes your home equity if you own, your retirement accounts, your brokerage accounts, minus any remaining debts. So if you have $60,000 in retirement accounts, $25,000 in a brokerage account, $15,000 in home equity, and $0 in debt, your net worth is $100,000. The reason $100,000 net worth by 35 to 36 is so important is mathematical. At 8% average returns, $100,000 generates $8,000 per year, $667 per month, in passive growth. That's more than most people contribute monthly. For the first time, your money is outpacing your effort. And from this point forward, the compounding curve starts bending sharply upward. If you were investing $700 a month from Milestone 2, and your income has grown, let's say you've bumped contributions to $900 by age 34, the jump from $50,000 to $100,000 takes only about 36 to 40 months. And during that stretch, your portfolio contributed roughly $16,000 to $18,000 in returns. Your money was nearly a 50-50 partner with you during that phase. After $100,000, it becomes the senior partner. The The psychology here is what researchers call the competence effect. Once you've reached $100,000, your belief in your own financial competence is unshakable. You've navigated market volatility, lifestyle temptation, and the boring middle line, and you came out ahead. That competence becomes a permanent part of your self-concept. And competent people make better decisions, negotiate better deals, and take smarter risks. The $100,000 isn't just money. It's proof that you know what you're doing. Milestone 4. By age 38 to 39, 1 year's salary invested and a clear path to financial independence. This is the interior of the house, the part that makes it livable. 1 year's salary invested means that if you earn $75,000, you have $75,000 or more in invested assets. At this point, your portfolio's annual returns at 8% roughly equal your contribution rate. You and your money are contributing equally. And if you keep going, which you will because the identity and habits are locked in, you'll reach 2 years' salary by your early 40s, and the compounding becomes almost absurd. But the second part of this milestone, a clear path to financial independence, is equally important. By 38 or 39, you should be able to answer this question concretely. If I keep doing what I'm doing, when can I be financially independent? And the answer should be a specific year, not eventually. Maybe it's 52. Maybe it's 57. Maybe it's 48 if you're aggressive. The number matters less than the clarity. Because having a clear path changes your relationship with every financial decision from this point forward. Every dollar invested isn't just money saved. It's time bought. And once you can see the finish line, even if it's far away, you run differently. Here's what I mean by time bought. If your annual expenses are $50,000 and your portfolio is at $75,000, you've bought 1.5 years of financial independence. Every additional $50,000 you add buys another year. At a certain point, usually around 25 times your annual expenses, you've bought forever. The math becomes simple and the goal becomes concrete. You're not saving some abstract number. You're purchasing years of freedom. And when you can see the receipt, I bought 1.5 years this decade. I need to buy 23.5 more. The motivation shifts from abstract to tangible. People who can articulate their path to financial independence make different decisions at every level. They negotiate harder because every raise buys more freedom. They resist lifestyle inflation because every dollar spent is a day of freedom traded. And they stay the course during boring stretches because they know exactly what the boring stretch is buying them. Now let me show you what hitting these 4 milestones does to your life beyond the numbers. At 31, with no debt and a funded emergency fund, your car's transmission fails. You cover the $3,500 repair without debt, rebuild the fund in 3 months, and your investment contributions never pause. 10 years later, those uninterrupted contributions are worth an extra $15,000 to $20,000 compared to someone who had to stop investing for 6 months to deal with the same repair on a credit card. At 34, with $50,000 invested, your company goes through a restructuring. You're offered a severance package. Without investments, you'd cling to the job and decline the package. With $50,000 invested plus your emergency fund, you take the severance, use the runway to land a role that pays $12,000 more, and the career upgrade accelerates everything. At 36, with $100,000 net worth, a friend approaches you about co-investing in a small rental property. The entry is $30,000. You can participate without jeopardizing your portfolio. The property generates $400 a month in rental income. That's another $400 a month feeding the compounding engine, and you didn't have to earn it through additional work. At 38, with 1 year's salary invested, you negotiate your compensation from a position of complete security. You ask for the raise, the equity, the flexible schedule, whatever matters to you, because the worst case scenario isn't catastrophic. And that confidence translates to outcomes that are worth tens of thousands over the remaining decades of your career. And speaking of your career, the progression through these 4 milestones transforms your professional life in a way that's almost unfair. At milestone 1, you stop being financially fragile. At milestone 2, you stop being financially dependent. At milestone 3, you stop being financially anxious. And at milestone 4, you start being financially strategic. Each transition makes you bolder, more creative, and more willing to pursue the career moves that generate the highest returns, both financially and personally. And the compound effect of bolder career decisions over a decade is often worth more than the investments themselves. Let me put specific numbers on this. The average salary increase from a job change is 10 to 20%. If you make 2 strategic job changes in your 30s, one at 32 and one at 36, each netting you 15% more, here's what happens. Starting salary at 30, $60,000. After the first jump at 32, $69,000. After the second at 36, $79,350. That's $19,350 more per year than if you'd stayed put. Over the remaining 25 years of your career, even without additional jumps, that's roughly $484,000 in additional lifetime earnings. And the financial security from hitting the milestones is what gave you the confidence to make both jumps. Now, I need to warn you about the trap that's specific to people in their 30s. Your 30s are the decade of maximum lifestyle pressure. Weddings, houses, cars, kids, social expectations. Everything costs more and everyone around you is spending more. And the temptation to keep up is overwhelming. Not because you're shallow, but because social comparison is one of the most powerful psychological forces in existence. And it peaks in your 30s when your peer group is making the most visible financial moves. There's a term for this in behavioral economics. Keeping up with the Joneses is the folk version. The academic version is relative deprivation. The feeling that you're falling behind not because your life is bad, but because other people's lives appear to be better. Social media amplifies this exponentially. You see the engagement ring, the house, the new car, the vacation, but you never see the debt, the stress, or the paycheck-to-paycheck reality behind them. You're comparing your balance sheet to other people's highlight reels, and that comparison, if you let it drive your spending, will cost you the entire decade. Here's the math that should stop lifestyle inflation in its tracks. If you increase your monthly spending by $500 at age 30, a nicer apartment, a car payment, upgraded dining, and maintain that increase for the rest of your 30s, the opportunity cost over 30 years is approximately $590,000. That's not the $500. That's the invested value of the $500 compounded. Nearly $600,000 to one rebite, the difference between retiring at 55 and retiring at 62. For an upgrade you'd stop noticing within 3 months. I'm not saying live like a monk. Your 30s should be enjoyed, but the milestone map gives you a framework for deciding when to increase lifestyle and when to hold. Hit milestone 2 before upgrading your apartment. Hit milestone 3 before buying the new car. Earn the upgrade by hitting the target first. That way, the lifestyle increase comes from surplus, not from stealing from your compounding engine. That's not sacrifice, that's sequencing. And sequencing is the difference between building a house and stacking materials in a pile. So here's how I want you to think about your 30s. You're not behind, you're not late, you're in the most powerful decade for wealth building you'll ever have. Your income is growing, your compounding window is wide open, and the decisions you make between now and 39 will determine more about your financial future than anything you do in your 40s, 50s, or 60s. Because time is the multiplier, and you still have plenty of it. 4 milestones, 4 stages. Each one builds on the last. And the person who walks out of their 30s, having hit all 4, isn't just wealthier, they're free. Free from debt, free from financial anxiety, free from career dependency, and free to build their 40s on a foundation that took a decade of intentional, sequential work to create. That foundation starts now, not with everything at once, with the first milestone, whatever stage you're at. Clear the debt, fund the emergency account, start the investments, build the net worth. Just focus on the one that's next. because the whole decade is in front of you, and now you have the map.